Okay, that's enough of that. About time we get started here. So, first off, shameless plug. Let's do Calibri. I am the host of Mars Talk, which is presented by the Mars Society, which I am a. Oops, sorry. I can't chew and walk and chew bubble gum. There we go. So if you go to marstalk.com, we have a podcast that I am a producer on for the Mars Society. We talk about relevant space news as well as things that are relevant to the Mars Society in particular, including our chapters and what they're doing. And it's a new endeavor for me. We just started out. We just released a week ago today, and our next episode will release a week ago from today, or a week from today. So go check that out. Shameless plug. And if you like space, if you're interested in the future of humanity, it's a really great podcast. All right, don't save that. All right, so I put together a little thing here of what I've done so far. I've done actually quite a bit more than I expected I would be able to. But why isn't it changing the time of day? Not gonna change the time of day on me? Come on, you can do it. Oh well. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do this anyway. So, that's going way too slow. Hey, I got a question. Does anybody know how to abort the cinematic camera once you get it started? Because I don't know how. The only way I know how is to start it over. Even if I press escape, it doesn't do it. Anyway. So how is everything? How is everybody? How are y'all doing? Yeah, I tried escape, Tsunami. Yeah, if you're not sure, I honestly I don't think so. That's probably a glitch or rather a lack. Something that needs to be fixed with this mod is once you start it, you are underway. 1:32 in Belgium, and you have school tomorrow. All right, buddy. Well, I'm glad I could participate in your delinquency. Alt escape or no. That's just changing different things, not helping me. What about control escape? Nope. You'll just take a Red Bull. Don't drink too much of that stuff. That will hurt your body, man. I've seen it happen. All right. Well, while we're waiting on my infinite video here, You know what? I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna go to the task manager. We're just gonna end this sucker and start it over. It'll be faster. All right, there we go. Hey, I like my Mars background there. All right, we'll restart city skylines up. Well, not as smooth a start as I would have liked, but oh well. That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, guys, I did actually a lot more work during the middle of the day than I had expected to do. So, what's going on now is I've actually got the game. I'll go ahead and do that. I actually have the game or the map set up. I've already started the actual save, and I've started setting things up, such as the water and the placement of the districts, which will be really the city boundaries. And that being said, I'm very happy to go back and look at things if we need to change things, anything like that. I expected to do a lot more of this stuff on camera than I ended up doing, just because I did a lot of it off camera. But I still want you guys to take a look at it, tell me what you think about it, and go from there. Oh, can you hear it? It's the ice cream man. Ice cream man! Woo! Okay. I don't know if y'all could hear that. Alright, so here we go. Here's our map. And I don't really want to do that, but I can't zoom out anymore. What if I can at least start here? So I went ahead and purchased the outside here. We are using the 21 tiles, or sorry, the 25 tiles mod. That's going to be mandatory for Discover, and we are also using the mass transit DLC. So we are also, I went ahead and have TMPE, but I haven't done anything with it. I got to check the Discordia. Let's see. How did that vote go? Ooh, we have 12 yays and 1 nay. I don't think that's exactly half yay. I think we need one more yay to really officially make Traffic Manager President Edition a part of this. I have a feeling that we can push that over the top, but we'll have to see. Alright, so let's get back to here. There we go. And so we got water treatment down here. Now, I haven't done anything with it, but this is just the area that I've designated as water treatment. I figured instead of making Team 2 do it, and then it's going to flow into Team 1's area, that we just have a separate area. And if you're on Team 2 or on Team 1 and we need more poo flow, then you make the poo flow out of this area here. I didn't know if we wanted to maybe put it down here instead or something, but that's where I chose to put it. We have a Team 1 start here, and we have a Team 2 start here, and I've done something interesting with Team 2 start. And this will affect Team 1 eventually as they grow, but I've put in what I would call an easement here. So this is the highway, and right now I just have a national road here, essentially. And so it's just a one-way highway each way. And I plan on eventually upgrading that to be a big 3-lane road here, and then having a second one here. And so in order to be able to accomplish that, I'm going to need that easement. And so I don't want anybody really building here. Now, that being said, Team 2 can build over or under this. And, I gotta figure out, Daniel, since you're listening, I gotta figure out, do I want to put in where they can connect here? I think that's how it was done in Discordia, so that's how we're going to do it here. Or should we allow them to kind of determine their own destiny as far as where they connect and how. Give me your thoughts on that, guys. Now let me read some of the chat here because there's a lot of chat. Okay. I'll be fine. Take a rebel. Mars 12 yays is more than half. Oh, there's only 10 per team. Okay. So that means traffic manager is a go. I'll definitely be working on that then. Water treatment with all those people, you mean poo. Yeah, that's what I said. I said poo. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to start with the traffic manager because there are some areas that need some lane management here. So I'm going to go ahead and start managing the lanes. And yep, and yep. So guys, with the gap in it, you will have to do it. It's outside the district area. Well, so I understand what you're saying, Jack. That's not. Oh, I gotta fix this. Look at that. Forgot to. There we go. That's better. So my intention, to be clear, Jack, and why isn't it showing up? There we go. My intention is that this is actually, you see how I have these little things here? Anything that's inside, including this area, is technically in Team 2's start area, but this is considered an easement, so I can at any time delete and bulldoze and do as I wish with the area that's inside this easement as the state. It's basically the state's right-of-way, but if they want to build inside of this area while it's just a two-lane road, they're welcome to. They just need to remember that I can make it go away just like that on one of my, I guess technically one of my turns, or I don't know how we put that, but one of the times when I'm managing the district. That's my intention. If we don't want to do it that way, that's perfectly fine. But that's what I was thinking. Try and give everybody as much freedom as possible while also making it work. All right, so let me finish this here. All right, and there. There. Bingo, and bingo. Okay, I can do that. So what we'll do, based on Jack Daniels' feedback, is we'll just fill this all in. And then easement will be... Oh, so I don't have Park Life set up right now. I obviously I have it and I intend to, but my understanding is we wanted to make it to where as few DLCs were set up as possible in the beginning, so that some of the other players that don't have them could play their turn or play a turn, and then as they progressed in their team order, then we would start adding those DLCs. If we don't want to do it that way, I'm perfectly fine with that, and I think Park Life would be one of the essential ones to have, but you tell me. Okay. Just put it as like a separate district? I don't understand. I have erase district and district. And that's about it. So, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I'll mess with that later once we get our minds made up on that, and I'll continue working on this in the meantime. So I think Yeah, I still need to do this one. All right. There we go. And we also want to set up this as a fly through. All right. Man, we already got traffic here, so I might have to do something better with this. I will. I'll fix that. Oh, yeah. Let's be clear. We got Jack Daniels Prime Highway. We got Czardus Interstate North and South. And, not to be left out, we got Nuki Duke Highway. And this little, just this little dinky road here, I call Tarantola Way. Just for the sake of making sure you know who your government is. Don't you forget. There's already a lot of traffic going on. Look at all this. Okay. So I am going to change the way this goes. Here. All right. Change it to this. So this is one of the most common ways that I like to do an interchange. And don't worry, I will fix all this kind of stuff. I don't like how whoever made the map, they have this as one of the things, and it just, oh my god, it's killing me. I'm dying over here. Oh. Yeah, I mean, a diverging diamond interchange might work eventually, but that's not what this is. Really a highway interchange, so I'm just gonna make it as such. So I'll just do a nice little U-turn here. Go straight for just turn that off, just a touch, and then we'll bend on in. I say like here. Oh, what was that, Jack? Grass remover. Oh, okay, I see, but that's not grass though. What that is isn't that it's actually like an asset that was used on the map. I don't know. I know how to get rid of it. All I got to do is this. Oh, I can't do it, mass. I don't have my extra landscaping tools. I feel handicapped. That's one thing about these I can't find it. There it is. See that? It'll go away. You just not gonna have the grass all next to it. Somebody knocking on my door. Quite literally. Who's knocking on my door? Hold on, guys. Some salesman wanting to sell me who God knows what. Knocking on my door, interrupting the live stream. That's ridiculous. Bury me with my guns, boy. Come on, we can get it. There we go. All right. So whenever you're using the Move It mod and you have problems here, this is a lot of you all know this, but for those that don't, you just kind of, if it's too close or you're too overlapping, it's gonna jink up on you. So you pull it away a little bit and it tends to work. And then if you hold down Alt and you move it, it'll kind of snap to be a nice clean shape here, just like that. And we want this to be a little bit more like that. And so then we want that like that and like that. All right. And then I'm pretty sure I need to reverse direction here. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and set up our lanes here. Bam. And bam. And we'll set up the off-ramp here. And the on-ramp here. Alright, let's see how that works. That ought to keep things flowing a little bit better. Now, the only downside to this... Oh, no, never mind. Never mind. What I was about to say was just blatantly false, so I won't even say it. Okay. So, let's go back to the chat. Dick Dennis, did you ever answer me on what you thought? Try to select the grass and move it. Yeah, no, I can delete it. Here, I'll use move it and select use only props. That might have been an easier way to do it. Obviously, I got it set up, but oh well. We obviously need to get rid of that and that. Yeah, I think that I'm going to have to set this up to be a bigger interchange as well with all this traffic. Yeah, let's use the topography to our advantage, shall we? Do something like this. And then curve it around here. It's going to be pretty narrow. I might have to move this road over a little bit or something, but I will make this work, I promise. Oh, I forgot to raise it up. Too late now. I'll fix that in a minute. What do you think, guys? Is that the best intersection you ever seen in your life? Best intersection ever. Oi. Let's get this crap off. There we go. Okay. You just pull it off a little bit and it just will work better. And make that straight. Make that straight. Come on. Work with me here. There we go. All right, so let's actually make that raised. Right there. Let's actually raise it up, shall we? Oh, that's high enough. It needs to be a little bit higher. So does this. Just a wee bit. All right. And this actually needs to turn into that at this point here. And we might have to do it as far back as there. And then we'll have it come around. Go into there. Didn't quite work. All right. There we go. Woo. I feel more rushed doing it in front of you guys than when I'm doing it by myself. I take my time. I don't... Let's make all of this... Oh, not that. Level with that. And then this can all be level with this. Yeah, there we go. Looks really good to me. Except for that doesn't look as good. There we go. And we'll set up the lanes. Loses control of the car. Wait, what? There's my other dot. Oh, do I have it the wrong way? I think I have it the wrong way again. I always do that, damn it. There we go. Every time. Every stinking time. Okay. There we go. Okay. And then so this is what I call my J intersection. It's basically the same thing I did here. It's just much more squished. And it's one of my favorites, quite frankly. Yeah, we'll pump it off right there. Like that. Right. Oh, no. Right there. Now we're going to have to get to a point where we're raised up here a little bit. Come on, snap. Well, that looks funky. That doesn't look right. It's okay, we'll fix it. All this to connect to. Yes, I literally spent all this time. That's why I wanted to do this job, is because this I find this to be more fun than about 3/4 of the rest of the game. The rest of the game is fun. Don't get me wrong, but this is one of my favorite things. Is just doing the traffic, just doing the civil engineering of it all. I don't know why. It's what gets me going. And Jack Daniels and Czardus and Nuki Duke decided to let me do it. So I'm very well and pleased with that to do it. And it's not just to connect two roads, it's to connect two roads well, I might add. Oh, yeah. There we go. All right. Oh, I need to do this part as well. Otherwise, it can get a little bit hinky. And once again. Yeah. Road work is my thing, Tsunami says. Yeah. Brother from another mother. Brother from another mother. Oh, I gotta figure out how to get rid of that little hinky. Gotta get rid of that little hinky there. There we go. Alright. That ought to work pretty good. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. I think that looks good. That looks good. That's really the only two intersections in the whole map. So we got one road that goes out to the map that way coming in, one that comes kind of along the river here, comes in, and we got this guy here, which is our main interstate. And then we have a train line that comes in from over here. It comes in, and the way I have it connected is, if you're coming from this direction, you can turn left or right, essentially. But if you're coming from this direction, you're not turning, because this is just outbound, and inbound. This is where you'll connect everything, right? Because the teams are going to start here, and Team 1 is going to expand into this area and then this area, and Team 2 is going to expand into this area here. And if we really get big, Team 1 might go out to here or something like that. But, by the time we get there, the city's going to be huge, and, you're going to have your own rail offshoots or something like that anyway. And I can see my highway being upgraded to an avenue. Absolutely. The way this is designed, and I'll just show you. And I do this in my cities all the time, is you can upgrade now this to an avenue like that now. They didn't put lights in, did they? Okay, they just took it. It did put a line in. So we got to fix this up a little bit. There we go. It's really what we needed to do is curve this out a little bit. And we need to take that light out. And so what will happen then is you'll be able to make it to where one lane goes that way, the other lane goes that way. And one lane comes in this way, and the other lane comes in this way. Now, I don't do that from the start. My idea was, it'd be less traffic, not as much to do. And with the traffic manager, we can make it to where everything stays at 100 speed. This is treated essentially the same as a highway, even though it's not a highway. So, exactly. Tsunami, you probably got that on there before I said it. I apologize for not looking at your comment first, so I'll give the credit to you, buddy. But yeah, that's exactly what you do. Now it's there. Yeah, so the bad thing about it is pedestrians here, and you can always fix that by not allowing pedestrians, which you see I've already actually disallowed from before. But then you'd also want to do that here, and you also want to make sure that they don't treat that as an intersection. I don't know if we want or need to do that right now. My idea was that we would do that. That I would probably do this actually. That would be one of the first things that I did was upgrade that. On the first round that I had, like after the first round that everybody played, after the first week. That was my thought. Something not right there, I think. And when I moved it around, something messed up. I got people calling me. I got salesmen knocking on my door. Y'all never watch another one of my live streams again, will you? Okay, so there's that set up. I think that rail's pretty much set up now. One thing I want to show off, I did a lot of grading work around here to make this thing work to where the trains could go over and actually be more or less the same level. The roads submerge into the ground here and go under the rail intersection here. And then everything comes up and over in such a way that you can actually have traffic. I did make it to where you have a, what do you call it? Your boat traffic, your ship traffic. Yes, it shows. Okay, your ship traffic comes in and goes around, so we can use this whole area here for whatever we want, and it will still work. And ostensibly, they will go under the bridge. Now, I kind of wish that it wasn't like right under where the footings are, but unfortunately, the way the game is set up, this is the minimum width, and so I had to do it right down the center, and I didn't want to widen it up too much. I wanted to try and keep the same topography that came with the map. You're getting paid to watch. You'll be here one way. Fair enough, man. But I'd like to make it as entertaining as possible. But I'm pretty proud of the way that bridge looks. I think it looks pretty realistic. I try to make sure that the grading was not too drastic and at the same time realistic. And I also see there's plenty of opportunity. If you notice, I made it to where Team 1 can actually start to go under, and they'll eventually be able to build up on this area here a little bit. So here's hoping for that. Now, Team 1, one of the things that we'll need to make sure to do is provide some power lines here. So why don't I go ahead and do that? Just throw some power lines in here. Just like that. Okay. So whenever Team 1 sets their power up and does the water treatment, should I go ahead and throw some poo in there, Jack Daniels? You know, get swifty with it. I know Jack Daniels doesn't know what that means, but some of y'all do. Woo. All right. Oh no, power. Power needs to go to there. And so I don't want to put the power line. I'm not going to put the power line for the water treatment. So Team 1, that's pretty much one of the first things they're going to need to do is set that up. I do have a power plant over here, but I figured that the power plant is going to be purely to power our water pumping stations, which ironically don't have enough power because the power doesn't have enough water. We also need to set up trash and stuff, but again, that's not my job, so I'm not going to do that. So nothing is going to be working until Team 1 starts and actually starts making things work. What else do I need to do, man? What else do we got? Let's make sure I... Looks like Team 2 will have more access to resources than Team 1, generally speaking. All right, Jack Daniels gives it the seal of approval from state government. So this is your Discover map. Does anybody in the chat have any suggestions, requests, or anything? Speak now or forever hold your peace. You can sell the oil, but you're going to have to negotiate with Team 2 to buy it first. That's part of the game, boys. It's part of the game. And there's just a hint, a touch of oil, just a hint. Just nuke Team 2 and take everything. Woo. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, it's already looking pretty bleak. We're gonna have to upgrade that pretty quick. Oh, we never finished setting this up the way I had intended or the way you wanted it. So I thought, you know, just doing it like this would be fine. People would get the idea. You go back and you put it in. And you put it in and it's an easement. And if they don't build in it, fine. That gives me enough room to do what I need to do. Damn commies. So who came up with this whole communist thing anyway again? Why? Mm. Yeah, I mean, look, if ultimately this isn't working, uh, I'll just remove it from their ability to build there, and it won't be an easement. It will be complete right away, and they can just work around it. But you know, there should be enough people here and watching this later that they get the idea. Oh, it was in. It was in. You got to look at their team chat. Their team chat shows it. Don't know why it got started that way, but that's what was going on there. Tsunami, you're just communism is just your thing, huh? I want to see the ship go under, see how that looked, but oh well. All right, I'm calling it, guys. Save game. And it's gonna be look at all those Discordias. Discover start. All right. So I'm gonna show you a couple more things, guys. For those of you that are gonna be playing in Discover. This is all stuff that you should be able to access without watching this video, obviously. But I figured since I'm here, I'll show you. So the mods that I have active when doing this, I have the advanced toolbar. Not all of these are required, by the way. Auto line color, big city, sets the maximum amount of tiles to 25 by Selectgo, and we will give you a link to that. Chirpy Exterminator gets rid of Chirpy. That's obviously not required. Cinematic camera not required. Clouds and fog tiler. Show more limits. Find it. Find road anarchy. Find road tool. First person camera. Improved content manager. That really does not affect the game at all. It just affects the content manager. I find it works really well though. Less steam. It really reduces my internet traffic, which is great for when I'm streaming like this. Then we got new loading options, the loading screen mod that helps me diagnose things if things go wrong. Move it, which you saw me using extensively. No seagulls, because fuck those guys. Precision engineering, prop entry anarchy, prop line tool, prop precision, prop snapping, quay anarchy, random tree rotation, and then you got all the unlimiteds. And then of course traffic manager president edition. Totally free camera, ultimate eye candy, unlimited money, unlimited oil and ore, unlimited soil, unlock all. So there we go. Assets. Let us sort by enabled. So the assets that you're going to want, and again, this is all linked in the rules page, are basically a bunch of Aussie trees that came with the map. And those are the only assets that I have active, and everything else is turned off. Right now, to start with, I only have one DLC, which is the mass transit. We will be ramping that up as time goes on. So Jack Daniels points out in the thing here, just go into save game, select discover, and then just subscribe to all, which is a good point. I just thought I'd show that off. Now we're going to go back into it for the close of this thing, and I'll actually do the... Oh, look, my food is here. Thank you, honey. Love you. We'll go back into here, and I'll just do the cinematic camera, and we'll take a look at what we got here. So I'm going to just pump it up to like 16. Let's see how it looks. Oh, it's not loaded. Load. There we go. Bingo. All right. No rules about naval blockades. Tsunami, you are evil. I can tell. Probably a lot of fun, but also evil. So today we have some dinner. Because of mutations. That's funny. So today we are eating the lovely Chipotle. That's good. Okay, so she brought me my dinner, but she forgot to give me a fork. So, no fork, but I will leave this cinematic with you for just a moment while I go get one. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, wow, that's almost already over, huh? Well, let's watch that again. Alright, guys, well, that's pretty much it. I don't have much else. Thanks for watching. And if you want to be a part of Discover, you can go to Czardus's Discord and sign up there. And it's a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be good. Alright, bros. And sisters, for any sisters that are out there, I will talk to y'all later, guys. Virtually. I get my mouse back. Where's my mouse?